And just getting into it, uh, with unemployment being a big topic right now, what are some things people should do when looking for a job? And on the other side of that, what are some things that businesses can do to get people hired?
Yeah, well, it's tough right now. So for people looking for a job, my heart goes out to you because, there are systemic reasons why, you are not being offered a wage that is fair. And so I just want to acknowledge that before giving, people any sort of advice on it. But I do think, there are some things people can do in terms of doing a lot of research into the companies that they're considering working for. And instead of kind of doing this scattershot where you apply to 100 different places, I think sometimes it's good to go deeper with companies that you really believe in and really care about, and then demonstrate in your application process how you know a lot about that company, how you've studied their strategy, you've studied not only their strengths but their weaknesses, and you could explain why it's a good fit for you. In terms of businesses, well, they have to take a lot more responsibility in this situation because for a long time, the expectations that we've had as a society around wages have not been enough. And I think, that's continued to squeeze workers more and more to the point where more people are starting to recognize it. And I think a business can go to their employees and they can say, hey, we want to do better. We want to pay more. Let's work together and commit that all revenue that is able to be achieved is going to go toward things like raises, increasing compensation, because a business has a responsibility to pay employees an amount of money where they not only can make ends meet and live, but also thrive and be happy and healthy. And that ultimately is going to decrease your turnover, make your business more effective, make your customers like you. I mean, it's pretty simple. The business needs to take care of its employees. And if they do, the employees will take care of the customers and everything works out.
If businesses aren't going to do it, do you think the minimum wage should at least be raised to $15 or raised up at least?
Yeah, I think we need a higher minimum wage. But what people don't realize is when you raise the minimum wage, it actually lifts wages for people kind of between that minimum wage and middle class. Because, of course, if you're currently making $15 an hour and all of a sudden the minimum wage is $15 an hour, you're more than likely going to be making $20 or $21 an hour. Once that kind of settles in and resets. We know this because here in Seattle, where I live, we set a minimum wage of $15 an hour several years, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And it was amazing to see how, we kind of thrived with the message that we wanted our everyday workers, the ones that were our essential workers, the one that bailed us out during the pandemic, to make as much money as possible. But to be honest, I think if we just put the minimum wage where it would be if we had shared our productivity gains more evenly over the past 40 or 50 years, the minimum wage wouldn't be $15 an hour. It would be $25 an hour. And the median income, instead of being around a little over $50,000 a year, would be closer to $100,000 a year. So imagine that. Probably all workers right now are getting like a 40, 50% haircut on what they should be making. And that money has been redistributed from everyday Americans to kind of global elites, corporations, all these sorts of things. And it's not particularly patriotic because a lot of our large companies are owned, more by foreigners in some situations than Americans. And so we as Americans can kind of hold the line and help each other. We can do this by doing things like collective bargaining, supporting our right for collective bargaining. But a $15 or $25 an hour minimum wage is basically like a overall national collective bargaining system. And when we have that strong baseline, then everybody is able to benefit and filter up. And we stop this redistribution from workers to the people at the top.
Okay. And with unemployment and stuff, some people are thinking that unemployment benefits right now are stopping people from looking for jobs. Do you think that's a case?
Well, I think what's stopping people looking from jobs is the fact that wages have not kept up. So expenses are going up and up and up, and wages have not gone up. This is the longest that we've gone in a very long time without a minimum wage increase. And as a result, the median wages haven't gone up much either. And so when you just can't really make it make sense to, take that job and pay all your bills and everything, then in that case, it's probably a good thing that that person is staying on unemployment. So the real answer here is to lift wages. Now, For small businesses where they're at a systemic disadvantage to the larger businesses, my heart goes out to you because I know this might sound a little bit like some tough love or tough news, but I think we need an overall structural reform right now because of low wages. We have a disproportionate number of Americans on food stamps that are working 40 hours a week. And so the government is subsidizing the likes of Walmart, Amazon, and many other multi-billion-dollar companies. What we should do is raise wages, give more money to small businesses so that we can help them to be able to afford those wages. And we will be able to shrink our cost of government overall because we have less people on government assistance. We can take that savings and use it to make sure our small businesses are healthy and thriving.
When you guys are either hiring and stuff, what are you looking for in like people?
Well, I mean, most companies that we compete with, they're looking for that elite degree. You know, they're looking for somebody that went to Harvard or MIT or Yale. We don't have anybody that works at our company that went to any of those schools. And in fact, we have people all over the company, including in executive positions and management roles who don't have college degrees, probably in some cases, maybe even one or two that don't have high school degrees. And we're totally okay with that because what we care about is somebody that can help us to work smarter, not harder, be more effective, and really just take care of our clients. Our mission is to help small businesses not get such a raw deal when it comes to accepting a credit card. They pay way too many fees. They don't get good service, and we're out to change that. And really what it takes is just a dedication to sticking up for that little guy, small business owner out there. But if an employee really wants to get a job at Gravity, it's a good idea for them to do a lot of research on us, our mission, and really think critically, is this the right place for me? Because if an employee can make an argument to us that it's going to benefit them by being a part of what we're doing, that has a really big impact and makes us want to hire you.
Mixture of like high school and college students are starting to graduate and are going to be joining the workforce. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, well, I would say it's tough right now because, you know, you have basically been set up to fail by a few different factors. One, before you got graduated, we had the Great Recession of 2008, the financial crisis. Secondly, we had the pandemic of 2020 and the ensuing economic crisis that came after that. And so, you know, you're at a bit of a disadvantage. Also, you know, we are right just now having generations, you know, basically from millennials down, who for the first time in a very long time are expected on average to do worse than their parents in terms of economic freedoms. So it's a really overall tough situation to be in. But I think, you know, you have to look at your situation realistically. My best advice would be have rich parents, but if, assuming that that's not an option for you, you know, I think really trying to figure out what's going to be the right fit for you, thinking really critically, maybe talking to some friends and family that you really vibe with, that you really trust, and not just saying, where can I get a job? Because that's what everyone asks, but where would I really thrive? Where would I do super well to be? And that's going to be the right place for you in the long term.
Do you think businesses are asking too much experience for too much experience sometimes instead of training someone with some experience?
Yeah. I was writing on Twitter the other day, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, you know, entry level pay, but you got to have a PhD and 10 years experience. You must have been like the CEO of Apple for at least 5 years, but it's an entry level job. And yes, this is really doesn't make any sense, right? And it shows where we are. And so I think businesses need to actually be willing to lift people up. One of the things I'm really proud of at Gravity amongst our leadership team is 17 out of our 19 managers and leaders were promoted internally. And we only had 2 out of the 19 that were actually hired in for that job. So, you know, looking for more companies to see that when you give people a path to succeed, the company does better also. Like, we've proven that over the last 6 years. And so we're just waiting for hopefully more and more companies to open their eyes. But in corporate America, it's tough because they just don't think like that. They tend to squeeze everybody. So it's a really tough road right now.
And how have people have like stood out that have either gotten those like raises, bonuses, or promotions? Like, what are things that they do?
Well, one thing is that they're very candid. When they disagree, they are willing to say they disagree. And that can be a really scary thing to do. but like speaking up. We also talk a little bit about people who are proactive, who are helping to create the kind of company that they want to work for long term, because Gravity is known as such a good employer right now. But one of our employees was recently interviewed by Adam Grant, the famous Wharton professor, and she talked about what it was like to work at Gravity Payments 15 years ago. It wasn't so good. And I think somebody like her deserves a lot of credit. And so our current generation of employees at Gravity, we're thinking about how we can make it better for people in the future. And so it's really like having that focus on the mission of the organization, not just about making money. That's not our number one thing. But it's really about serving our small business clients, making sure that we're getting them a better deal and reliable in terms of our credit card processing service. And then also, how do you lift people up, help other people to grow? So that can-do, compassionate, kind attitude really goes a long way.
And do you see any certain sector of jobs that are either taking off right now or might be taking off in the future that people should be looking at?
Well, there's a lot of tech jobs, right, that are lucrative, and with a lot more work from home, there's a chance for people to take advantage of that, even for people that don't live in San Francisco and don't live in New York. So there's a lot of opportunities in technology. It's not for everybody, but for people that are really wanting to try to have financially the best career opportunity possible, it's certainly something to consider if you're more of an introvert, more of an engineer type, and you like to kind of like solve puzzles. I think being a software engineer, being in technology, and by the way, you don't need a degree all the time for those things. The smart companies will recognize your talent if you can really develop yourself. So, in some cases, if you're going to work for a smart company, it might be better for you to like self-teach yourself in certain situations if that's all you can afford. I know there are large companies that stigmatize that, and I feel bad about that. They shouldn't. If you're more of an extrovert, then, developing a lot of empathy for what the customer wants. So in our case, our salespeople are really important, and our customer service people are really important because they deal with our 20,000 small business clients every day. And so basically, getting really organized, like keeping lists, all those sorts of things. Because if you're extroverted, you're probably going to be pretty natural with customer service. And then the name of the game is being organized and follow through, follow through, follow through.
Okay, I think I've gone through all my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add that maybe I didn't directly go over that you think might be important?
I just wanted to let people know that I spent like 4 years and basically wrote down how I got here, because I grew up in life as the fourth of 6 kids, and in a conservative Christian family that was all about business first, employees need to sacrifice. And this book is about how I learned how that's not the right way to go in the long term. And it's actually not only hurting the employees, but also the business. And if you reverse that and put the employees first, the business will succeed. So it kind of walks people step by step, like how I figured that out, how I stumbled onto it bit by bit by bit. And so I'm proud of that. And I just ask that if people are interested in buying this book, that buy it from a local store, buy it from bookshop.org. Try to stay away from Amazon, because I don't think we need more people supporting Amazon right now.